Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please hit that like, subscribe, share if it resonates with you and you think someone could benefit from my work. And if you get anything from my work, I connect a dot, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore. Please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description of this video. Before I begin, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, and this is a really good chapter, by the way. I was going to do a soul advice, and I still might, but a lot of us have been getting a lot of downloads, and mine is just all over the place in different topics. I'm getting a lot of different things that are. So I'm gonna let a couple of days so I can just sink in, and been meditating a lot. So just something to preface that I feel that is necessary for this, not just this video, but all the body of my work. These concepts and writings, all of them, are in one time frame on a timeline that either is resonating with you or not, especially channeled work, where there are predictions about the future. Those things need to be taken with a grain of salt because time is fluid and things do change. Pertaining to books, documents, and people's forecasting, Nostradamus, being in one example, wrote quatrains so out of the human consciousness that you could apply a lot of things to the verses that he wrote. So you could make claims that things have come to fruition through his quatrains, but they're so baseline, so non-specific, you can put in your perception in there and make it fit. What I am seeing, and we had a really good day on We Not Me, and my best friend was like talking about a concept, and he's like, "Oh no, you're wrong." No, I'm not necessarily wrong. My perception is I've read and did some research on things that you have not, and you're going based on one book and maybe some documents. But time is fluid and things in this battle and war have changed. Even Ashiana Dean, who's now slowly on her channels, are updating her work because things have changed. It's not that she was wrong, and it's not that any of these people, when they were getting their channeled information, was wrong. It's perception, it's metaphysics. Things change. We excel our timelines. So if we do that, the paradigm shifts. So what happened in the Keys of Enoch when it was written in 1973 may or may not happen if manifested by enough people. If we look at the Curtis books, they're explaining to you that there might be some earth changes and things of that nature, but it's due to karmic ties of a race or a set of people. Dolores Cannon speaks of very similar things. So my advice to people, this is why I read all the different types of books that I do. A lot of people don't understand the method to my madness, and it's just to say, you can't base your reality on one structured book. Not even the Bible. You can live by it. You can have faith by it. You could pray every day. There's always not another perception out there that might ring true to you if you have an open mind toward it. You don't know until things come into your purview. I have so many amazing people on this channel always recommending books and recommending me things that I'm like, whoa, that adds another whole level to a paradigm, and I'm going to research this. Always look at other varied books, subjects, and topics. Don't hang on to the one book paradigm. That's what my channel is for. A lot of people argue that Manly P. Hall is dangerous work to be reading because he's a Mason and he did X, Y, and Z. Okay. I have Aleister Crowley's work on my shelf. Would I read his incantations? No. No. But I'll read his work to understand where his mind was when trying to influence NASA. We have to keep a perception of open-mindedness in order to move forward in any realm, reality, whatever ascension looks like for you. We have to keep an open mind. Can't just be stuck on one specific thing, one specific person. And I see so many people recommend videos to me or, send me stuff. And I'm like, well, I was with those people and listened and hung off their words. And I'm telling you guys this from a place of, I did it myself. I was hanging and latching onto concepts. I was holding on to concepts that wasn't allowing me to open up to other pieces of information because I was hanging on so dear tight to what I thought I really truly resonated with. But in fact, when other work presented itself, I kind of ignored it. I kind of put it away because these people had big platforms and these people were famous and famous in terms of people were starting to follow and give credence to these people. And I should have known better from all the reading I've ever done in my entire scope of life. I should have known better. And now I know better than to hang on to a book or a topic. Even though I love the Curtis books, I don't resonate with everything they say. All the books that I read behind me, I take with a grain of salt and I take what resonates with me. And that's all I am asking you guys to think and consider when I do these readings is non-judgment, take the bias out, just listen with open ears and take the concepts and things that resonate within your soul, your heart, your mind, your gut. No one's perfect. Everything, in my opinion, everything since the infiltration is 1984. Everything has been rewritten. Council of Nicaea, and continues to have that problem happen today. You don't know what agenda is being steered in anybody's direction, and it's a mind thinking about that. Putting blind trust in things isn't healthy either. So please take all that in mind when understanding that you need to go and look at multiple directions, and you need to update your knowings and knowledge before you can make certain claims. I know what is in my present, and I know what's in the past, and I know what possibly might be written in the future, but it's just a timeline that could be transcended. And again, you don't know what these people's agendas are, or if they even are aware that there is an agenda in the first place, especially when there's channeled work involved. Why? I don't channel, and I can, and I will not do it. I channel from my higher self and my galactic self constantly, but I'm not contacting other beings to help me write a book or to help me perceive the future, because the future is always forever changing. We wrote our timelines, but it's up to us individually to move the needle up or down. So what we wrote for ourselves can change. The people who are supposed to make those things change. It's all an illusion. But I needed it's a big, heavy topic, but I'm just not quite ready yet to go full in depth with it. But I really wanted to get that out, guys. It's concerning when I see the chats and I see what people write. They're not ready to look at other work, and they're basing their whole reality based on what someone's words are and hanging off of them. It's a little scary. No matter what the documents were, no matter what pieces of information people are giving you off the news and all these podcasts. And I love these people, but I see too many people hanging on to things without going within and doing your own inner work to understand if that even meshes with you. Lead yourself. This topic that I'm going to read is quite interesting. Hermetic Pharmacology, Chemistry, and Therapeutics. Buckle up. The art of healing was originally one of the secret sciences of the priestcraft, and the mystery of its source is obscured by the same veil which hides the genesis of religious belief. All higher forms of knowledge were originally in possession of the I can never get this word out. Scarecrow castes. The temple was the cradle of civilization. The priests, exercising their divine prerogative, made the laws and enforced them, appointed the rulers and controlled them, ministered to the needs of the living, and guide the destinies of the dead. All branches of learning were monopolized by the priesthood, who admitted in their ranks only those intellectually and morally qualified to perpetuate their arcanum. The following quotation from Plato's Statesman is apropos of the subject. In Egypt, the king himself is not allowed to reign unless he has priestly powers, and if he should be one of the other classes and have obtained the throne by violence, he must get enrolled in the priestcraft. Candidates aspiring to membership in the religious orders underwent severe tests to prove their worthiness. Their ordeals were called initiations. Those who passed them successfully were welcomed as brothers by the priests and were instructed to secret teachings. Among the ancients, philosophy, science, and religion were never considered as separate units. Each was regarded as an integral part of the whole. Philosophy was scientific and religious. Science was philosophic and religious. Religion was philosophic and scientific. Perfect wisdom was considered unattainable, save as the result of harmonizing all three of these expressions of mental and moral activity. While modern physicians accredit Hippocrates with being the father of medicine, the ancient Therapeutic ascribed to the immortal Hermes the distinction of being the founder of the art of healing. Clemens Alexandrius, in describing the books purported to be from the stylus of Hermes, divided the sacred writings into 6 general classifications, one of which, the Pasphorus, was devoted to the science of medicine. The Samargine, and again, I'm butchering words, guys, or the Emerald Tablet found in the valley of Ibran and generally accredited to Hermes, is in reality a chemical formula of a high and secret order. Hippocrates, the famous Greek physician, during the 5th century before Christ, dissociated the healing art from the other sciences of the temple and thereby established a precedent for separateness. One of the consequences is the most widespread crass scientific materialism. The ancients realized the interdependence of the science. The moderns do not, and as a result, incomplete systems of learning are attempting to maintain isolated individualism. The obstacles which confront present-day scientific research are largely the result of prejudicial limitations imposed by those who are unwilling to accept that which transcends the concrete perceptions of the 5 primary human senses. Their Paracelsian system of medical philosophy. During the Middle Ages, the long-ignored axioms and formulae of Hermetic wisdom were assembled once more and chronicled, and systematic attempts were made to test their accuracy. To the Theophrastus, level with me, people, of Houyhnhnm, looks Norse, who called himself Paracelsius, a name meaning a greater than Celsius. The world is indebted for much of the knowledge it now possesses of the ancient systems of medicine. I love my brain. Paracelsus devoted his entire life to the study and exposition of Hermetic philosophy. Every notion and theory was grist to his mill, and while members of the medical fraternity belittled his memory, now as they oppose his system, then the occult world knows that he will yet be recognized as the greatest physician of all times. While the heterodox and exotic temperament of Heraclitus has been held against him by his enemies, and his wanderlust has been called vagabondage, he was one of the few minds who intelligently sought to reconcile the art of healing with the philosophic and religious systems of paganism and Christianity. In defending his right to seek knowledge in all parts of the earth and among all classes of society, Paracelsus wrote, "Therefore, I consider that it is for me a matter of praise, not of blame, that I have hereto worthily pursue my wanderings. For this will I bear witness respecting nature. He will investigate her ways, must travel her books with his feet. That which is written is investigated not through his letters, but nature from land to land, as often as land, so often a leaf. Thus is the codex of nature, thus must it leaves be turned." Paracelsus was a great observationalist, and those who knew him best have called him the second Hermes and the Trismegistus of Switzerland. He traveled Europe from end to end and may have penetrated Eastern lands while running down superstitions and fettering out supposedly lost doctrines. From the gypsies, he learned much concerning the uses of simples, and apparently from the Arabians concerning the making of talismans and the influences of the heavenly bodies. Paracelsus felt that the healing of the sick was of a far greater importance than the maintaining of an orthodox medical standing. So he sacrificed what might otherwise have been a dignified medical career at the cost of lifelong persecution, bitterly attacked the therapeutic systems of his day. Upmost in his mind was the hypothesis that everything in the universe is good for something, which accounts for his cutting fungus from 2 stones and collecting dew on glass plates at midnight. He was a true explorer of nature's arcanum. Many authorities have held the opinion that he was the discoverer of mesmerism, and that Mesmer evolved the art as the result of studying the writings of the great Swiss physician. The utter contempt which Paracelsus felt for the narrow systems of medicine in vogue during his lifetime and his conviction of their inadequacy are best expressed in his own quaint way. But the number of diseases that originate from some unknown cause is far greater than those that come from the mechanical causes, and for such diseases our physicians know no cure, because not knowing such causes, they cannot remove them. All they can prudently do is observe the patient and make their guesses about his condition, and the patient may rest satisfied if the medicines administered to him do no serious harm and do not prevent his recovery. The best of our popular physicians are the ones that do least harm, but unfortunately, some poison their patients with mercury, others purge them or bleed them to death. There are some who have learned so much that their learning has driven out all their common sense, and there are others who care a great deal more for their own profit than for the health of their patients. A disease does not change its state to accommodate itself to the knowledge of the physician, but the physician should understand the causes of the disease. A physician should be a servant of nature and not her enemy. He should be able to guide and direct her in her struggle for life and not throw, by his unreasonable inferences, fresh obstacles in the way of recovery. From the Peregrinum, translated by Franz Hartmann. The belief that nearly all diseases have their origin in the invisible nature of man, the astrum, is a fundamental precept of Hermetic medicine, for while Hermeticists in no way disregard the physical body, they believe that man's material constitution was an emanation from or an objectification of his invisible spiritual principles. A belief, but it is believed fairly comprehensive. Resume of the Hermetic principles of Heraclitus follows. There is one vital substance in nature upon which all things subsist. It is called archeus, a vital life force, and it's synonymous with the astral light or spiritual air of the ancients. In regard to the substance, Officius Levi has written, quote, light, that creative agent, the vibrations of which are the movement and life of all things, light latent in the universe, ether, radiating about, absorbing centers, which being saturated thereby project movement and life in their turn, so forming creative currents, light, astralized in the stars, animalized in animals, humanized in human beings, light which vegetates all plants, glistens in the metals, produces all forms of nature, and equilibrates all by the laws of universal sympathy. This is the light which exhibits the phenomena of magnetism, divined by Heraclitus, which tinctures the blood being released from the air as it is inhaled and discharged by the hermetic bellows of the lungs. The history of magic. The vital energy has its origin in the spiritual body of Earth. Every created thing has two bodies, one visible and one substantial, the other invisible and transcendent. The latter consists of an ethereal counterpart of the physical form. It constitutes the vehicle archeus, and may be called a vital body. The etheric shadow sheath is not dissipated by death, but remains until the physical form is entirely disintegrated. This etheric doubles, seen around graveyards, have given rise to a belief in ghosts. Being much finer in its substances than the earthly body, the etheric double is far more susceptible to impulses and inharmonies. It is derangements of the astral light body that cause much disease. Heraclitus taught that a person with a morbid mental attitude could poison his own etheric nature, and this infection, diverting the natural flow of vital life force, would latter appear as a physical ailment. All plants and minerals have an invisible nature composed of this archeus, but each manifests in a different way. This vital energy has its origin in spiritual body of the earth. Every created thing has two bodies, one visible and one substantial, the other invisible and transcendent. I wanted to reread that because that for me resonates. And I think a lot of people need to realize that. Especially your vital life force. And not to say, because basically what's that is saying is that some of this could be here. But like for myself, I'm going to be honest, I was really, really, really sick after my father died and I had RA and got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was bedbound. My life altered in a snap. All my dreams were flushed down the toilet, and I hit a depression. But then I acclimated to understanding that my disease does not define me. And yes, I have to make changes in order to function with my body, but I'm going to make it happen. A lot of it is mind over matter, but that doesn't mean that your body, there's still things going on inside of you that is not of your mind. It is really a physical environmental causes. Yes, diet can help, but it's not a recipe to end all be all. It's your mindset with diet and exercise, a healthy mind frame, and a motivation to get up and overcome your circumstances. It's been 2 years, almost 10 years now that I haven't taken an RA medication. I was on infusions, I did self-injections, I was taking all those biological medications that killed my teeth and my thyroid and other organ systems because I really couldn't walk. I have walkers. I had an acorn stair lift, and it wasn't just for my mother, it was for me. I've come a long way. I'm no longer on any medication besides for my thyroid. I'm taking a lot of holistic things to help my body. Just trying different combinations of things. We're all different. All of us are different. Trying is great, but it doesn't work for everybody. So don't get discouraged. But motivate it in your mind. Talk to your body. Tell your cells you love them. I know it sounds batshit crazy, but you're lifting your vibration by doing it. It might not solve all your pain problems. It might not take away things. Trust me, I just hit 40 and my body is out of control on my hormones. Out of control. I'm up all night, and that's, half of it is Morgan. The other half is I can't get to sleep. I can't wake up. I'm groggy. I'm eating really healthy. There's so much involved in our bodies and in our energy centers. Just take a lot into consideration. But I did it. I overcame taking pharmaceutical medication. I don't have to take painkillers anymore. I don't have to live on that anymore. I haven't had one in a long time. Don't need them. I was never relying on them anyway. But there were days that I couldn't walk, that I was crawling. That's why my upper body is super, super strong, because I could crawl to get to the bathroom. I still have my bathroom assistant stuff in this house. I still have my walker. I have all my braces. I'm personalizing this to give you and whoever is listening to this some sort of hope that it all starts with making changes in your ways of thinking, and not, you can do it and you can motivate yourself. Try different modalities, and sometimes your body just gets immune to these things. Like all the medication I was on, my body got immune to it. They were giving me doses 12 times my body weight, when most of those medicines are delivered by your weight, and I'm tiny. I'm I'm short, and I'm very slender. And even at my heaviest, I was getting doses that would be considered horse doses, just so that I can function. Another contributing factor to why my hair grayed even faster, even though it was already graying, it like exemplified it all, amplified it. My teeth, same thing. Don't let any of that stop you from healing, but just know it encompasses all, and your outside other selves and your higher self. Got to put the work in. Concerning the astral light bodies of flowers, James Garfell in 1650 wrote the following, quote, I answer that though they be chopped in pieces, buried in a mortar, and even buried to ashes, yet do they nevertheless retain by a certain secret and fulfill power of nature, both in the juice and in the ashes, the self same form and figure that they had before. And though it be not there visible, yet it may be drawn forth and made visible to the eye by the artist. This perhaps will seem a ridiculous story to those who read only the titles of books, but those that please may see this truth confirmed if they have recourse to the works of M. du Chesne, S. de Violet, one of the best chemists that our age hath produced, who affirms that himself saw an excellent Polish physician of Krakowa, who kept in glasses the ashes of almost all the herbs that are known, so that when anyone out of curiosity had a desire to see any of them, as for example a rose, In one of his glasses, he took that where the ashes of rose was preserved, and holding it over a lighted candle, so soon as it ever begun to feel the heat, you should presently see the ashes begin to move, which afterwards rising up and dispersing themselves out of the glass. You should immediately observe a kind of little dark cloud, which diving itself into many parts, it came at a length to represent a rose, but so fair, so fresh, and so perfect a one, that you would have thought it had been a substantial and odoriferous rose as grows on the rose tree. This is from Unheard of Curiosities Concerning Talismanical Sculpture of the Persians. Heraclitus Parasoli. See, my brain doesn't function properly. It's disgusting. Heraclitus, recognizing derangements of the etheric double as the most important cause of disease, sought to reharmonize its substance by bringing into contact with it other bodies whose vital energy could supply elements needed or were wronged enough to overcome the disease conditions existing in the aura of the sufferer. Its invisible cause having been thus removed, the ailment speedily vanished. The vehicle for the archeus, or vital life force, Heraclitus called the munma. A good example of the physical munma is vaccine, which is the vehicle of a semi-astral. Anything which serves as a medium for the transmission of the archeus, whether it be organic or inorganic, truly physical or partly spiritualized, was termed a mumia. Hope I'm saying that right. The most universal form of the mumia was ether, which modern science has accepted as a hypothetical substance serving as a medium between the realm of vital energy and that of organic and inorganic substance. The control of universal energy is vital and possible, save through one of the vehicles, the mumma. A good example of this is food. Man does not secure nourishment from dead animal or plant organisms, but when he incorporates their structures into his own body, he first gains control over the mumma, or the etheric double, of the animal or plant. Having obtained this control, the human organism then diverts the flow of the archeus to its own uses. Heraclitus says that which constitutes life is contained in the mumma, and by imparting the mumma, we impart life. This is the secret of remedial properties of talismans and amulets, for the mumma of the substance of which they are composed serves as a channel to connect the person wearing them with certain manifestations of the universal life force. I'm going to add something to this. This is why you should pray over your food and what you drink. Giving thanksgiving, not just to the animal that was sacrificed for you to eat. Always do that, but also the plants and the vegetable life, because they're also sentient. Just because you plucked it out of the root and you think it didn't cause it pain, in many ways, it probably did in an astral form. Just note those things. I'm not here to persecute anybody who does either one of the diets. You do you, boo. Everybody's body's different and everybody's body requires different things. So who are you to judge what people eat? But note that you should be blessing your food with the will and intention of light, love, purification, and harmony, that you're putting anything in your body will transmute that energy that was negative, possibly the animal was sacrificed in a not okay way. You're going to bless the food and thank that animal soul for its sacrifice for you to eat. So you should be doing that. I do that. Bless your food, all of it. Bless your water. Whatever you do, bless it. And come from a heart-filled place, so the vibratory state that you're blessing it does something. Because you say, here's this meat and I bless you, ain't working. Have some intention in there, guys. But that's a lot of what I feel this is trying to portray here. According to Heraclitus, in the same way that the plants purify the atmosphere by accepting into their constitutions the carbon dioxide exhaled by animals and humans, so may plants and animals accept disease elements transferred to them by human beings. These lower forms of life, having organisms and needs different from man, are often able to assimilate these substances without ill effect. At other times, a plant or animal dies, sacrificed in order that the more intelligent and consequently more useful creature may survive. Heraclitus discovered that in either case, the patient was gradually relieved of his malaise. When the lower life had entered, completely assimilated the foreign muma from the patient and had itself died and disintegrated as a result of its inability to do so, complete recovery resulted. Many years of investigation was necessary to determine which herb or animal most readily accepted the muma of each of its various diseases. Heraclitus discovered that in many ways plants revealed by their shape the particular organs of human body which they served most efficiently. The medical system of Heraclitus was based on the theory that by removing the disease etheric muma from the organism of the patient and causing it to be accepted into the nature of some distance and disinterested thing of comparatively little value, it was possible to avert from the patient the flow of the archaeus, which had been continually revitalizing and nourishing the malaise. Its vehicle of expression being transplanted, the archaeus necessarily accompanied its muma, and the patient recovered. Very interesting to see things on the outer invisible layer of things that most people can even comprehend, which I know more people are now interested in, which is great. The Hermetic theory concerning the causation of disease. According to the Hermetic philosophers, there were 7 primary causes of disease. The first was evil spirits. I'm not gonna lie, I hate to pause all the time, but I believe that. Really, I do. These were regarded as certain creatures born of degenerate actions, subsiding on the vital energies of those to whom they attach themselves. The second cause was a derangement of the spiritual nature and the material nature. These two, failing to coordinate, produced mental and physical subnormality. The third was an unhealthy or abnormal mental attitude. Melancholia, morbid emotions, excessive feeling, such as passions, lusts, greeds, and hates affected the muma, from which they reacted into the physical body, where they resulted in ulcers, tumors, cancers, fevers, and tuberculosis. The ancients viewed the disease germ as a unit of muma, which had been impregnated with the emanations from evil influences which it had contacted. In other words, germs were minute creatures born out of man's evil thoughts and actions. To an extent, I believe that. More on the mental health aspect than on the physical body. And yes, you can drive yourself when you're mentally unstable or have issues, you tend to have in the start of that disease process. And I ain't gonna lie to you people. Being what I am, I know I was attacked by the evil spirits that were coming out of my portal. Oh, I know this for a fact. I can tell you, I was on the same track as my birth mother. My birth mother committed suicide in 2003. I never got to meet my mother. I only knew about her existence after I found my adoption was closed. And then I found out. I was in, ironically, not even knowing my mother committed suicide, I was dealing with suicidal tendencies for at least 10 years of my life. I didn't want to live. I didn't care about anything or anybody. I was in such negative states of thinking. And I believe that's what drove me to be diagnosed at 21 years old with rheumatoid arthritis. Besides the fact I needed a life shift anyway, and I wrote it into my script. But after my father died, like my whole life like deteriorated from there because all my dreams went out the window. Because I had to take the moral compass route to take care of my mother. So everything that I ever wanted for myself went bye-bye, goodbye, can't go to grad school, gotta get a job, gotta support the family, gotta help my mother out. I did the moralistic thing, but that drove me really deeper into a very spirally down road of abusing things that I needed the experience for in the first place. Thankfully, I'm not on anything, but I think everybody hits those points once or twice in their lives. Mine exceedingly hit for a very long time. But I do believe that's an aspect that could be going on to why people are in more pain than they normally should be, is because of the other influences around them that they allow in. The fourth cause of disease was what the Orientals called karma. And that is a law of compensation, which demanded that the individual pay in full for the indiscretions and delinquencies of the past. A physician had to be very careful how he inferred with the workings of this law, lest he thwart the plan of eternal justice. The fifth cause was the motion and aspects of the heavenly bodies. The stars did not compel the sickness, but rather impelled it. The Hermeticists taught that a strong and wise man ruled his stars, but that a negative, weak person was ruled by them. These 5 causes of diseases are all superphysical in nature. They must be estimated by inductive and deductive reasoning and careful consideration of the life and temperament of the patient. The 6th cause of disease was a misuse of faculty, organ, or function, such an overstraining a member or overtaxing the nerves. The 7th cause was the presence in the system of foreign substances, impurities, or obstructions. Under the heading must be considered diet, air, sunlight, and the presence of foreign bodies. The list does not include accidental injuries. Such do not belong to the heading of disease. Frequently, they are methods by which the law of karma expresses itself. According to the Hermeticists, disease could be prevented successfully, combated in 7 ways. First, by spells and invocations in which the physician ordered the evil spirits causing disease to depart from the patient. This procedure was probably based on the biblical account of a man possessed of devils, whom Jesus healed by commanding the devils to leave the man and enter into a herd of swine. Sometimes the evil spirits entered a patient at the bidding of someone's desiring to injure him. In these cases, the physician commanded the spirits to return to the one who sent them. It is recorded that in some instances, the evil spirits departed through the mouth in the form of a cloud of smoke, sometimes from the nostrils or flames, as flames. It is even averred that the spirits might depart in the form of birds or insects. The second method of healing was by vibration. The inharmonies of the body were neutralized by chanting spells, intoning the sacred names, or by playing upon musical instruments and singing. Sometimes articles of various clothes were exposed to the sight of the sick, for the ancients recognized at least in part the principle of color therapeutics, now in the process of rediscovery. Pause here. We could take this as to what is happening in our paradigm right now, where people are using frequencies, certain hertz, that when you play it, listen to it, put your hands on the speaker, you're vibratorily getting the oscillation of a certain particular frequency that is neutralizing the harm in your body. It works for some people. So people also chant, not saying spells or invocations, but take that to the next level of mantras, all the rays of the chakra, yam. There's other short vowel syllables that people put together and mesh, like cream, shreem. When you vibrate that, like the Tibetan monks or even some of the Norse do throat chanting and like singing, and vibratory states are coming out of that, that's supposed to be very healing. I do that in my, like when I go into my hot tub to meditate, I like, I don't know if you can even hear that, but I do a lot of that in the water. So you don't need to take this as chanting spells and intoning sacred names. I mean, you could pray, which is great. You can meditate. There's a whole lot of things here. Don't take it as like, oh, chanting spells. Let's modernize that to saying you have mantras, affirmations, high vibratory states of things when you speak out into existence. It's helping. The third method was with the aid of talismans, charms, and amulets. The ancients believed that the planets controlled the functions of the human body, and that by making charms out of different metals, they could combat the malignant influences of the various stars. Thus, a person who is anemic lacks iron. Iron was believed to be under the control of Mars. Therefore, in order to bring the influence of Mars to the sufferer, around his neck was hung a talisman made of iron and bearing upon it certain secret instructions, reputed to have the powers of invoking the spirit of Mars. If there was too much iron in the system, the patient was subjected to the influence of a talisman composed of the metal corresponding to some planet having an antipathy to Mars. This influence would then offset the Mars energy, thus aid in restoring normality. I was given a talisman at my Sweet 16 by a really good friend of mine. I don't wear it, but there are talismans. Like I have a lot of runic talismans, the Helm of Ah, some Bind runes. that I specifically wear. I wear my hammer all the time for the most part, but I wear my Merkaba. I mean, everybody has like their talisman. Could be your cross. It could be whatever. But back then they had these discs with inscriptions on it. A lot of people, if you're wondering, the Talisman of Solomon, they have all the zodiacal stuff on there, and then they have sigils and different markings in them corresponding to planets and other things. It's very interesting. They're most people that make those pieces of jewelry, they're beautiful. But people did wear that stuff, and it's still a lot of people do today. The fourth method was by the aid of herbs and simples. While they used metal talismans, the majority of the ancient physicians did not approve of mineral medicine in any form for internal use. Herbs were their favorite remedies. Like the metals, each herb was assigned to one of the planets. Having diagnosed by the stars the sickness and its causes, the doctors then administered the herbal antidote. The fifth method of healing disease was by prayer. All ancient people believed in the compassionate intercession of the deity for the alleviation of human suffering. Paracelsus said that faith would cure all disease. Few persons, however, possessed a sufficient degree of faith. The sixth method was the prevention rather than the cure. Of the diet and daily habits, the individual, by avoiding things which cause illness, remained well. The ancients believed that health was the normal state of man. Disease was the result of man's disregard of the dictates of nature. The seventh method was practical medicine, consisting chiefly of bleeding, purging, and some similar lines of treatment. These procedures, while useful in moderation, were dangerous in excess. Many a useful citizen had died 25 or 50 years before his time as a result of drastic purging or having all the blood drained out of his body. Let's go back to when they used leeches. Although I do agree that when you have repair needs on an organ or of a body part, sometimes they do use leeches to help get the blood circulation into, like, let's say someone severed a finger and they were able to attach it back. They, in some crazy way, the leeches bring the stimulation of the blood back into that organ, so, or part. So again, that's in moderation. They're not letting all these things suckle on that person for days and hours, and they're clean and made sure there's no diseases, but they used to bloodlet. Yeah, crazy things in the medieval times, but even in their time. But that's just one example that pops in my brain. Paracelsus used all 7 methods of treatment, and even his worst enemies admitted that he accomplished results almost miraculous in character. Near his old estate in Hohenheim, the dew falls very heavily at certain seasons of the year, and Paracelsus discovered that by gathering the dew under certain configurations of the planets, he obtained a water possessing marvelous medicinal virtue, for it had absorbed the properties of the heavenly bodies. There is a lot of spiritual people who, with I have this myself, and I do use this when I can remember. I have a bottle with clear quartz in it, and I will pour water in it and put my intentions into it by my vibrational state and put it in the moonlight during a full moon. A lot of people do this. I'm not crazy, but it's the state of the vibratory state coming off of, even if, to all my other lovelies out there, even if it's not a real moon. There's still something to it vibrationally. Just saying. Just saying. Hermetic herbalism and pharmacology. The herbs of the fields were sacred to the early pagans who believed that the gods had made plants for the cure of human ills. When properly prepared and applied, each root and shrub could be used for the alleviation of suffering or for the development of spiritual, mental, moral, or physical powers. In the mistletoe and his philosophy, P. Davidson pays the following beautiful attribute to the plants. Quote, books have been written on the language of flowers and herbs. The poet from the earliest ages has held the sweetest and most loving converse with them. Kings are even glad to obtain their essences at secondhand to perfume themselves. But to the true physician, nature's high priest, they speak in a far higher and more exalted strain. There is not a plant or a mineral which has disclosed the last of its properties to science. How can they feel confident that for every one of the discovered properties, there may not be many powers concealed in the inner nature of a plant? Well, have flowers been called the stars of earth? And why should they not be beautiful? Have they not from time to time of their birth smiled in the splendor of the sun by day and slumbered under the brightness of the stars by night? Have they not come from under a more spiritual world to our earth, seeing that God made every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew? Many primitive peoples use herbal remedies with many remarkable cures. The Chinese, Egyptians, and American Indians cured with herbs diseases for which modern science has no remedy. Dr. Nicholas Culpeper, whose useful life ended in 1654, was probably the most famous of herbalists, finding that the medicinal systems of his day were unsatisfactory in the extreme. Culpeper turned his attention to the plants of the fields and discovered a medium of healing which gained for him national renown. In Dr. Culpeper's correlation of astrology and herbalism, each plant was under the jurisdiction of one of the planets or luminaries. He believed that disease was also controlled by celestial configurations. He summed up his system of treatment as follows. Quote, you may oppose diseases by herbs of the planet opposed to the planet that causes them, as diseases of Jupiter by herbs of Mercury, and the contrary diseases of the luminaries by the herbs of Saturn, and the contrary diseases of Mars by herbs of Venus, and the contrary. There is a way to cure diseases, sometimes by sympathy, and so every planet cures his own disease, as the sun and moon by their herbs cure the eyes, Saturn the spleen, Jupiter the liver, Mars the gall, and diseases of choler, and Venus diseases in the instruments of generation. Medieval European herbalists rediscovered only in part the ancient Hermetic secrets of Egypt and Greece. These early nations evolved the fundamentals of nearly all modern arts and sciences. At that time, methods used in healing were among the secrets imparted to initiates of the mysteries. Incantants, choleria, philatures, and potions were concocted to the accompaniment of strange rites. The effectiveness of these medicines in a matter of historical record. Incense and perfumes were also much used. Barrett in his Magnus describes the theory on which they worked as follows. Quote, for because our spirit is the pure, subtle, lucid, airy, and unconscious vapor of the blood, nothing therefore is better adapted for collyriums than the like vapors which are more subtle to our spirit and substance. For then, by reason of their likeness, they do more stir up, attract, and transform the spirit. End quote. Poisons were thoroughly studied, and in some communities, extracts of deadly herbs were administered to persons sentenced to death, as in the case of Socrates, the infamous Borgia of Italy developed the art of poisoning to the highest degree. Unnumbered brilliant men and women were quietly and efficiently disposed of by the almost superhuman knowledge of chemistry, which for many centuries was preserved in the Borgia family. Seja Borgia. Egyptian priests discovered herb extracts by means of which temporarily clairvoyance could be induced, and they made use of these during the initiatory rituals of their mysteries. The drugs were sometimes mixed with the food given to candidates, and at other times were presented in the form of sacred potions, the nature of which was explained. Shortly after the drugs were administered to him, the neophyte was attacked by a spell of dizziness. He found himself floating through space, and while his physical body was absolutely insensible, being guarded by priests that no ill should befall it, the candidate passed through a number of weird experiences, which he was able to relate after regaining consciousness. In the light of present-day knowledge, it is difficult to appreciate an art so highly developed that by means of draughts, perfumes, and incense, any mental attitude desired could be induced almost instantaneously, yet such an art actually exists among the priestcraft of the early pagan world. Hint, hint, hallucinogenics. Concerning this subject, H.P. Blavatsky, see, they all go hand in hand, the foremost occultist of the 19th century, has written, plants also have like mystical properties in a most wonderful degree, and the secrets of the herbs of dreams and enchantments are only lost to European science, and useless to say to are unknown to it, except in a few marketed instances, such as opium and hashish. Yet the psychiatrical effects of each, these few upon the human systems, are regarded as evidence of a temporary mental disorder. The woman of Thessaly and Epirus, the female hierophants of the rites of Sabbath, I can't project this word, did not carry their secrets away with the downfall of their sanctuaries. They are still preserved, and those who are aware of the nature of soma know the properties of other plants as well. Isis Unveiled. And I think that's Isis Unveiled right here. We're going to read that. Herbal compounds were used to cause temporary clairvoyance in connection with the oracles, especially the one of Delphi. Words spoken while in these imposed trances were regarded as prophetic. Modern mediums, while under control as a result of partly self-imposed lepsy, maybe, give messages with what some similar to those of ancient prophets, but in the majority of cases, their results are far less accurate, for the soothsayers of today lack the knowledge of nature's hidden forces and timelines. The mysteries taught that during the higher degrees of initiation, the gods themselves took part in the instruction of candidates, or at least were present, which was in itself a benediction, as the deities dwelt in the invisible worlds and came only in their spiritual bodies. It was impossible for the neophyte to cognize them without the assistance of drugs, which stimulated the clairvoyant centers of his consciousness, probably the pineal gland. Many initiates in the ancient mysteries stated emphatically that they had conversed with the immortals and had beheld the gods. When the standards of pagans became corrupted, a division took place in the mysteries. The band of truly enlightened ones separated themselves from the rest, and preserving the most important of their secrets, vanished without leaving a trace. The rest slowly drifted like rudderless ships on the rocks of degeneracy and disintegration. Some of the less important of the secret formulae fell into the hands of the profane, who perverted them, as in the case of the Bacchianalia, during which drugs were mixed with wine and became the real cause of the orgies. In certain parts of the earth, it was maintained that there were natural springs, wells, or fountains in which the water, because of the minerals through which it is coursed, was tinctured with sacred properties. Temples were often built near these spots, and in some cases, natural caves which chanced to be in the vicinity were sanctified to some deity. The aspirants in initiation and those who came to request prophetic dreams of the gods were prepared by a fast, more or less prolonged, after which they partook of meals expressively prepared and also mysterious drinks, such as the water of Lethe and the water of, I can never say this properly, Minos, whatever, in the grotto of Trophonis, or of Ciceron, in the mysteries of the Ecclesia. I can't, you know how frustrating this is? Because I have that word in my head and it just doesn't want to pop out of my mouth. Hang on. Okay, so that grotto was Mnemosyne. Not the way it's spelled. Not the way it's spelled. You see, I have to use this to help me out. Okay. Eleusinian. Eleusinia. The mysteries of Eleusinia. Different drugs were easily mixed up with the meats or introduced into the drinks according to the state of mind or body into which it was necessary to throw the recipient and the nature of the visions he was desirous of procuring. The same author states that the certain sects of early Christianity were accused of using drugs for the same general purposes as pagans. The sect of the Assassins, or the Yezbis, as they are generally known, demonstrated a rather interesting aspect of the drug problem. In the 11th century, this order, by capturing the fortress of Mount Almont, established itself at Iraq. Hassan Sabah, the founder of the order, known as the Old Man of the Mountain, is suspected of having controlled his followers by the use of narcotics. Hassan made his followers believe that they were in paradise, where they would be forever if they implicitly obey him while they were alive. De Quincey, in his Confessions of an Opium Eater, describes the peculiar psychological effects produced by this product of the poppy, and the use of similar drugs may have been given rise to the idea of paradise which fulfilled the minds of the Yezbis. The philosophers of all ages have taught that the visible universe was but a fractional part of the whole, and that by an analogy, the physical body of man is in reality the least important part of his composite constitution. Most of the medical systems of today almost entirely ignore the superphysical man. They pay but scant attention to causes and concentration their efforts on ameliorating effects. Cilius, noting the same proclivity on the part of physicians during his day, aptly remarked, there is a great difference between the power that removes the invisible causes of disease, which is magic, and that which causes merely external effects to disappear, and which is physic, sorcery, and quackery. Disease is unnatural and is evidence that there is a maladjustment within or between organs or tissues. Permanent health cannot be regained until harmony is restored. The outstanding virtue of Hermetic medicine was in its recognition of spiritual and psychophysical derangements as being largely responsible for the condition which is called physical disease. Suggestive therapy was used with marked success by the priest physicians of the ancient world. Among the American Indians, the shamans or medicine man dispelled sickness with the aid of mysterious dances, invocations, and charms. The fact that, in spite of their ignorance of modern methods of medical treatment, these sorcerers effected innumerable cures and is well worthy of consideration. The magic rituals used by the Egyptian priests for the curing of disease were based upon a highly developed comprehension of the complex workings of the human mind and its reactions upon the physical constitution. The Egyptian and Brahmin worlds undoubtedly understood the fundamental principle of vibrotherapeutics by means of chants and mantras, which emphasize certain vowel and consonant sounds. They set up vibratory reactions which dispel congestion and assisted nature in reconstructing broken members and depleted organisms. They also applied their knowledge of laws governing vibration to spiritual constitution of man. By their intonings, they stimulated latent centers of consciousness and thereby vastly increased the sensitiveness of the subject nature. In the book of Coming Forth by Day, many of the Egyptian secrets have been preserved to this generation. While the ancient scroll has been well translated, only a few understand the secret significance of its magical passages. Oriental races have a keen realization of the dynamics of sound. They know that every spoken word has a tremendous power, and that by certain arrangements of words, they can create vortices of force in the invisible world about them and thereby profound influence physical substance. The secret word by which the world was established, the lost word which Masonry is still seeking, and the threefold divine name symbolized by AUM, the creative tome of the Hindus, all are indicative of the veneration accorded the principle of sound. The so-called new discoveries of modern science are often only rediscoveries of secrets well known to the priests and philosophers of ancient paradigm. Man's inhumanity to man has resulted in the loss of records and formulae, which, had they been preserved, would have solved many of the greatest problems of civilization. With sword and firebrand, races obliterated, the records of their predecessors, and the inevitability met within an untimely fate for need of the very wisdom they have destroyed. And that's the end of the section. And like I was saying before, with what when I go into my hot tub to meditate and to try to calm my nerves and my body down, that vibratory state that I project out of my throat and the chanting that I do in terms of saying yam, all of that helps me. It might not help you, but it doesn't hurt to try. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there with people who do light language. That's just another example of a vibratory frequency that is emitted by somebody where what they're saying in an Atlantean or Octurian or whatever other language is seeding you codes within yourself. I mean, some people don't resonate with that, and that's fine. But that last part was fascinating because people are using frequencies now in medicine where it's been ignored and called woo-woo. But it's eye-opening. It's very eye-opening. And I hope by myself giving some personal examples to some of you, try things that can't hurt you or harm you. If you try sound therapy, if you go and do the tuning forks, if you go sit and do throat exercises, there's a lot of videos on that stuff, and you could do it by yourself. You don't need to be embarrassed or ashamed. It doesn't hurt to try, because what happens if it does work for you? It's not putting a substance in your body. It's not plucking herbs. And I'm going to say FYI, I'm excited because my sage is finally coming up out of my soil, and it smells so damn good. I'm so excited. I have some sage coming out of my garden. I have lettuce, I have cilantro, kale, all now blooming up. I got some cucumbers, really excited. Potatoes are gonna take a while. My onions are taking a long time. My berries are not gonna pop this summer. They're hopefully I'll get some berries next summer. But all in good stance that I have the electroculture going on. So I have a lot of copper, and I have copper all wheeled out in a string. And then in certain parts of the box, I have copper coiled with clear quartz crystal. And then because my garden, because of my property and the way the sun hits, it's near the electrical lines that like give my house juice to run everything. But there's high EMF, so I put shungite on top of the soil to help with that, and everything explodes. So just something to take into consideration. I know herbs don't taste the best, and I get it. I'm there with a lot of people, but it doesn't hurt you to try to grow some and make some. It's an experiment. It's fun. Do it yourself. So I do want to thank everybody for joining me tonight, or whenever you see this video. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Again, I'm gonna have a whole video of just me venting on some things that are really starting to surface in my own healing, and understanding where humanity is right now, with people really being there for other people. And I'm seeing a lot of people taking advantage of other people. And I don't necessarily like that. We're at a very big juncture in our world, and understanding the old paradigm doesn't mean it should dictate the new one. But in order to not repeat the past, we need to learn from it. And some things we can take away with us to help. We need to be able to support each other and move forward together, because that's the only way it's going to happen. We collectively made this happen, and we have to collectively do it together. So we need to unify. And it's kind of hard to do that when everybody's in their own selves. So I want to thank everybody for supporting me, for coming and watching, learning. If you get anything, again, not all my books you're going to resonate with. That's just, I don't resonate with a lot of stuff either, but I think it's worth note and reading, at least. I'm working on the background, reading doing a lot of things right now. I'm trying to keep myself busy with trying to figure out what am I doing for a job. If I don't get called for this school year, closer to home, I have to figure out another avenue of what to do. And again, noting that I am not trying to go back to the doctor and having to go back on medication, because I'm putting my body through hell of stress, standing all day or doing heavy lifting, which I shouldn't be doing. I have to find jobs that are suitable for those things, and they're not easy to find at all. I mean, dream job right now is to work in either a cat cafe playing with kitties all day, or working in a library. I mean, I would be so thrilled to work in a library, but you need a stupid library science degree to work in many of those places. So I have to figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm trying to distract myself with not getting upset. am producing my artwork, and I'm looking into avenues of opening up a store, so that I'm able to get my work out there and have some sort of income. That's like very important. And I like the energy exchange. So I'm trying to get all of that settled and looked into, and I have 1,000 million pictures to do, and I'm making artwork in the meantime. A lot of stuff happening in my paradigm, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thank you for all the new subscribers. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who comes and likes. Just like the video. It's great. Thank you for your support. It really does mean a lot to me. I really do very highly appreciate it from each and every one of you. Life is a interesting speck of experience that we all have to do and experience together. And sometimes it gets hard when you don't really feel a part of any fold. You're your own little ninja searching a way of getting things done, and not having real deal support from other people is hard. I don't have people giving me tickets to go fly for. I don't have people giving me opportunities. I don't have anybody offering anything to help, to, hey, here's a product, you want to sell it? I don't have any of that. I don't have people paying for my lifestyle. It's hard when you have to do it all by yourself. It's hard, but we all have to make it, and we all have to do it together. So let's have Amish mindset. And we'll be okay. Let's transmute this evil. Let's do it the Hermetic way. Sending each and every one of you protection, light, love, and shielding. Please be safe for the week ahead. Please be weather aware. There's a lot of weather going on right now, all over the United States, up in Canada, all over the world. Let's pray for everybody. My thoughts, my healing energy is being sent to Hawaii right now. And I'm hoping, regardless of how it happened, lives were lost. And it's painful, and trying to give all that healing energy to you guys. Till the next one, guys. Have a great one. Be safe, be seen, and see you on the next one.